A very good morning once again, and thank you for staying tuned to Sunrise at Sea. We do have quite a good show lined up for you, and right now we are getting into our views, the segment where we give our blunt opinions on some matters. Well, today we are talking about individual social responsibility, and we have seen so many clips, and we live in an era where people are now more focused on social media. When you encounter someone being beaten up by the roadside, when someone's phone is being stolen, when someone is being violated rather. In the recent past, we saw a story of a one Matovu who beat up his wife very badly. But instead of people coming on to help, they were just looking on and taking pictures and videos. And the question is today, is it our individual social responsibility to intervene when we see someone being hurt, either verbally or physically? But before we get into this conversation, let us watch a little video. February 22nd, 2022, and it happened in Kololo, where one Ethiopian diplomat was attacked by border guys, or you can call them border men, while he was, going on about his business. And when you watch this video, you actually see that so many people were passing by, cars, and no one was standing to help. And that takes us back to our question today. Well, like I said earlier, do you think it's our individual social responsibility as bystanders or onlookers to intervene when we witness a wrongdoing where somebody is being hurt physically or verbally? Like in this situation, should those people have, stopped and then intervening, and maybe they could have helped without him having to lose his property, without him having to be beaten up like that? But joining me at the center of this conversation is the ladies, and that is Siobhan Auma and Sarah Apollo. Good morning, ladies.
Good morning. Good morning.
Well, before I ask you the question, I would like to expound a little bit on what social individual responsibility is. And this refers to our awareness of how our actions affect community as a whole. Individual social responsibility can include volunteering time, giving money, and standing up for issues that affect the rights of others. And also, individual social responsibility is a moral belief where we as individuals have a responsibility towards society, being socially responsible, especially like intervening in that situation that we saw on the video. So today, ladies, I would like to ask you a question. Do you think it's our social responsibility that we should intervene in such situations? Or should we also just move on while we watch, someone being violated, someone being beaten up? Should we intervene?
There's a thing called the bystander effect. When you find yourself in an emergency situation, when you're seeing a crime being committed, somebody's either being attacked or there's a robbery or whatever the case may be. And in that situation, what the effect does is that it puts you, the individual who is watching, the witness, in a moment where you have a split second to either decide to either intervene or not intervene. Now, in most cases, and people are advised, especially when it looks like an organized attack or crime, people are advised not to intervene. Yes. Because you may end up becoming a casualty. I know sometimes you look at situations and you feel helpless and hopeless in that situation. You want to help, but you cannot help, because if you do, you are going to become a possible victim or casualty in that situation. You've seen cases where there's people who are trying to break up fights and end up getting shot.
Yes.
There was a student back in the day in university where I went to school. I'm not going to mention his name. There was a basketball game, and then there was an altercation. So he tries to break up his teammate and the other guy. So the security guard comes and shoots him point blank, and he died. Literally almost on the spot. So you see, sometimes you have to assess how you have to assess the situation and not just jump in because you may end up getting hurt. So what is advised in situations like this is that if you have your smartphone, record. Because
While
then
you're just looking at someone being violent,
we have just seen this
They
person
could die in the moment.
No, the Aggie. First, hold on. Did you not see like
that?
10
Let me
people
tell you
attacking
something.
one person?
Yes.
What are you going to do in that
does
situation? It
recording-
looks organized.
But
let me finish.
Okay.
What recording does is that you are collecting evidence. You have the pictures and on video of the perpetrators. And what you can do in that incident is call the police and hand over that footage, that information, because that is what you can do. We all want to be a hero, but sometimes
Don't you think by the time you
There
call
are
the
two-
police
there-
to intervene, it
There
will-
are
it
two
could be too
things
late?
there are two things that Sarah has highlighted. One that I agree with, and one that I do not definitely concur with. Well, it is very important that first of all you analyze the situation. I mean, if it's organized crime, you do not want to find yourself in the middle of thugs. However, pulling out your phone and recording may not be the right thing to do. You gave an example
What
of,
is
the,
it?
of
What-
so many videos have gone viral of men battering their wives, and you can clearly see that there is someone recording. These are women who end up in hospital. These are women who end up with internal bleeding. Why? Because it's about the numbers nowadays. That is what Uganda
It is
and the
not-
world over is about, the numbers. I'll give an example. About a decade ago, and this particular gentleman, may his soul rest in eternal peace, was called Kevin Carter, and he was actually a group of fearless photojournalists known as the Bang Bang Club that traveled throughout South Africa capturing atrocities committed during apartheid. Now, if you remember, for journalists out there, and I know that you know, this young man took a picture of a little child that a vulture was about to get, but he chose to take the picture, win the award.
to help.
2 months down the road, he committed suicide. Why? Nowadays, it's about the numbers. Can we be human beings? Can we learn to intervene? But also the problem about intervening, because there is a one time I intervened, and my friend, I was told point blank, did I call for help? Did I call you for help? Why are you intervening if my boyfriend is beating me? I did not call for your help. So I think it's very important that you assess the situation. When you can intervene, definitely do intervene. But there are some situations where honestly you might end up being the casualty. But again, I strongly condemn. And I remember on the Twitter jabs last week, we were actually talking about this particular conversation on domestic violence. And I wasn't around on that particular show. However, I did watch, and I kept on telling myself, at the end of the day, when police is actually arresting the perpetrators of crime and domestic violence, they should start by arresting people that take those videos.
No.
Those are the ones they should start with.
No.
You cannot-
Because they are
You
encouraging
cannot
crime.
totally
You're
rule out
promoting
it.
it.
Videos are important. Videos
They are
important
important.
because
Are you,
that is
am I going to
evidence.
sit down and watch you being beaten and I take a video of you? Don't you think there's something wrong with the other person taking the video?
Listen, Shivan, let me please make my point. When I say that you should get your smartphone out and record this and report it, I'll give you an example, and you said it in your introduction, of that boy, Matovu.
Beat up
I
his wife.
hate to even call him a gentleman. When Matovu was beating up his wife, okay? The person who recorded that video put it on Twitter and tagged Assistant Inspector General of Police Asan Kasinje. Tagged him directly. And he saw that video and he retweeted it, and he actually followed up until Matovu was convicted. Do you understand? So it is not that people are, okay, maybe some people want to break news, some people want to be relevant,
Yes.
but this is the thing. After you have seen this video and it has triggered you, what are you going to do about it? Everybody is here talking about human rights, human rights, human rights. All these organizations that stand for human rights, you have now seen the video. Why are you not following up about it? Because you are an authority that can do something about it. And this is the thing about Twitter and social media just in general right now. We are now interconnected. If I tag the inspector of police himself, a gentleman who is very active on Twitter, by the way.
Yes, very active.
If I tag him himself in person, or even the president of this country, tag him into a video and I'm like, look at what has happened. This is the person and this is what happened. They will be under scrutiny for not acting. Listen, as a bystander, when you see a crime happening, it is important, assess it. Don't just jump in, because you're going to end up putting yourself in danger. That is absolutely true, because you don't know if it is an organized crime, if you don't know if it's an organized syndicate. We just watched that video, and there were about 7-8 people
But there were
attacking
so
this
many
one
cars
person.
moving. If they decided to stop
This
and
is
then
the
come
thing.
out and
You
help the
also
person,
don't
it
know
wouldn't have
that
gone
if
that
the
far.
person who is behind you in traffic is also a part of that crime. Are you aware that that person?
It
that,
is not
no.
that, it is just
Listen.
the fact that the country has turned into a toxic generation and people just want to mind their business. How many times have we been moving on the road and we find accident victims and we find cars that have knocked one another, and what people are doing is
They're
removing
taking
their phones,
videos
taking
instead of-
videos, picking people's
Yes.
pockets. Why? Because we have become a group of angry people. Every time something bad happens, that is what fuels
We are
us.
not clout
Can we
chasing
people.
stop
We can call it clout chasing
Can we
people.
Can we stop this mindset, this behavior, this very toxic trait of taking videos of other people going through pain? Imagine that situation of the Matovu incident. Imagine if the lady had not made it, because by the way, she was taken to hospital. She is admitted. So imagine if the situation had escalated. The person who took that video, would you be able to live with what you did for the rest of your life?
But ask yourself, the person who took the video, was they in position to?
But there
to
were
They
other
were.
people- there
Let
were
me
other
finish.
people
Let me
surrounding them. They
finish.
could
Let me
have,
finish.
you know,
The
chipped
people
in.
who took the video,
There
were
were
they in
people
better
talking in the
position?
background.
Were they in a position? Ask yourself in that situation. It is good for us to point fingers, but you as somebody who saw that video, did you follow up to see what happened to that lady? Did you reach out? Did you send some support? Did you know? Let's not be hypocrites, because people who are taking those videos are also in fear of their life.
Okay.
Do you understand
okay.
that? So let us not just go on to call them out and say, oh, they're chasing clout, they're chasing this. Actually, I applaud that person who took that video and tags the authorities in it and say, are you seeing what is happening?
Call
we
for
are
help.
not-
Call for help. Then take that video if
Here's
you
the
must.
thing.
But call for
we
help.
are not
You need to call
downplaying.
for
We
help.
are not downplaying what they did. It's actually very important that someone takes a video, because at the end of the day, that is evidence to the police when
Thank
they're doing investigations. But in a situation where there's so many people surrounding, why is everyone pulling out their phone? There could be someone helping. I'll take you back a little bit. On October 13th, 2020, there was a lady called Sisi Namkasa who drowned
Yes.
in a Nakawa manhole. You remember that
Yes,
incident
yes.
if you watched that video. People were on, there were traffic lights, it was actually the red light on, and people were seated in their cars because there was a heavy downpour. No one could get out to help this lady who was screaming until, they recorded a video, until we saw the video where the lady was washed away by the floods.
Do you know why?
So in that situation, my question is, if you are human enough, if you are human enough, what does it cost you to get out of your car and help this lady?
It could cost you your life.
How?
I watched that video too, and I also remember that day there was a very heavy downpour. I think it happened around Nakivubo Channel.
Up Nakawa.
And Nakawa
traffic
around there,
lights,
and you
yes.
understand, if you have been in those places on a heavy day, on a heavy downpour, a day when it is raining, first of all, our drainage system in Kampala is a problem. Number
whose
one,
fault
I
is
think
that? Those people also
no.
should be
What I'm
accountable.
saying, let me finish. What I'm saying is we need to look to the authorities to, number one, fix the drainage system and channels, so that on days when it rains like that, there is proper passage of rain.
water.
Number two, we need to sensitize people that in case it floods, do not go into or step into any water, because you do not know how deep or how shallow that water is. And unfortunately for the case of this lady, and I'm not being insensitive about it, she was not properly, she didn't know. She assumed, I'm just going to step on like a stone somewhere there and I will be able to cross. That is not the case. So I think we need to go down to properly sensitize people. And number three, let us desist from stigmatizing people who are bystanders. Like I said, you do not know the situation. Somebody could have, how many people in this Kampala know how to swim, first of all?
That is
Well,
not
in that
true.
moment,
Swimming
you know,
lesson.
but that is
You're
even
there,
a
you don't
manhole.
have, you're there, you don't
Stop.
have any skill. Your work is just to eat.
That is even a manhole. You couldn't swim
Talk.
there.
Exactly.
But,
this is the thing. How many of these bystanders have any rescue or first aid knowledge? How many
In that moment,
for tycoon.
let us not let us not just be saying things for the sake of saying things. This is a real life situation.
Yes.
And I don't think you people understand how difficult it can be to be in a situation where you're seeing someone who definitely needs help, but you are unable to help them. Because one, perhaps you have frozen in time because you are trying to, one, process that something is actually happening. And number two, many people don't even have the basic know-how of how to handle
So you'd
any
rather see
situation.
someone, you know,
Let me
die
give-
just
let me
like
tell
that
you a
without
story.
being
Let
human
me-
enough to
It
actually
is
chip
better
in and
than
help.
also becoming a victim or casualty in the situation.
That is being
What
in
if-
your comfort
what
zone. You
if-
need to
I'm
get
not
out of
being
your
in my
comfort zone.
comfort
However,
zone.
there is a story that I did read that was published by the New York Times back in 2018. And this story was a young lady. You know, in other countries, people stay in apartments and you can buy a home if you want to. So this young couple comes and buys a home, and they had neighbors. They found neighbors, a single lady with children. But every day, because when the story came out, the neighbor narrates, and she said every day she would hear in the evening plates flying, cups flying, and a woman screaming. But she constantly wondered what was going on, but she did not intervene. Every time the woman would come up, she would either come out with a swollen eye, a bruised leg, and she didn't know what was going on, yes? She chose to keep quiet because she did not want to intervene. Now, when she did, the husband, to her friend, warned her to stay away. 2 months down the road, it was reported that that woman died in her house. You can't save a life if for a minute you stop thinking about yourself and your safety, because sometimes it's not just about you. There is a reason as to why on that rainy day you were parked alongside that stream. You could have saved that woman. There is a reason as to why today you're probably going to be moving towards Intinda stretcher, and there will be an accident and you're the only one person, and you're probably going to be the Jesus of the day to save someone. But because everyone in this country and the world has become
It's everyone for
Video
himself and God for
everyone
us
for
all.
just a full toxic generation. Just.
And to add and to supplement a little on what Shivan said, in that video, there's a gentleman who actually came out, who stepped out of the truck to help the lady. But what he says is the water was way too strong, and he said if there were more than 2 people or 3 people, they could have actually saved the lady. He was the only one who, out of courtesy, stepped out of that truck. Now, what if, because there's so many people stuck in traffic, what if there were about 3 people who stepped out?
Then the question
have
should
saved
be,
the
how should we
situation.
react
See,
in such
that's it.
situations?
But you see,
That's when it comes to individual social responsibility. You
Exactly.
as an individual.
and you are saying exactly what my point is trying to come across. He wanted to help, but the
he
tide,
actually did help. Only that he was.
But she
was overpowered because it was just
exactly.
him. What
He
if
was
everyone else
overpowered.
was
He
there?
wanted to help. He could have gone further to actually help her and get out of the situation, but the tide of the water was too high, and if he had continued to be there, he could have lost his life. What I'm saying is that I'm not saying don't help. And that is not what I'm saying.
Assess the situation.
I'm saying assess the situation. And if you're in a position to go and get more help or mobilize help, please do so. If you're in a situation where you see you could potentially get harmed in that situation, I completely stand for the fact that get your phone out, collect evidence, shoot videos, and then report it to the authorities. How many times have we seen people get beaten and killed by mob justice? In 2019, a report from the Uganda police said that 746 people had been victims of mob justice. And these are people who have done things like, say, petty crime, or robbed someone, or beat someone, or been accused of doing something. And this is what you guys are standing for. When you see somebody who is being attacked, let's attack the attacker. No? But in that case, do you know what you're doing? You're aggravating the situation and also making yourself a perpetrator in the long run. I am saying intervene when you can actually do more good than harm in that situation. There are people, when you say people in Uganda do not like to intervene, people in Uganda live for these things. Some people
They
want to
live
intervene
off
for
other
the
people's
case.
pain.
They live
No.
for these things.
They live
in the
exactly,
cases.
they live
let's
off
say,
other people's pain.
let me finish. In the case of mob justice, there are people who have been beaten for defiling, molesting children beaten to death for robbing, all these cases and all that. Mob justice is a crime in this country. It is not allowed. And you can actually be convicted, arrested and convicted for, you know, for murder of whatever different degrees. And actually it did show that it had increased by 75% from 2013, where cases of mob justice were 426. So please, I would like to say, intervene when you are able to. Say, when you see someone has fainted along the roadside, assess the situation, because you also don't know. It could be a prank. You could be a case. It could be a case of you being conned. Some people use that as a ploy, you know, to make you a victim of something bigger.
When somebody gets into an
accident, at a safe distance, call for paramedics, call an ambulance, call the police.
This is what I want to say.
At the end of the day, you also have to protect yourself.
That is very true, but this is also what I have to say. And I'm going to give you free advice. You don't have to pay for it. It's not on my Twitter. I am here saying it live on national TV. Can you learn some simple life skills? And stop only just kulia party and feeding off other people's pain. Learn how to swim. Learn some self-defense mechanisms. Learn how to call for help. These small, you know, take time off your busy schedule and learn how to defend yourself in certain situations. So that also you don't fall culprit of some of these incidences that we're talking about. Also, if you must, move around with some sort of protection. We have pepper spray. Get peppers. Okay, move around with deodorant, spray in the face, you know. Bishop, learn some simple defensive skills.
Okay, so before we get into our tweets, I would like to let you know some of the manifestations of individual social responsibility, and these are making decisions based on what is good for the greater number of the people.
But
stop
Also,
being in your comfort zone. Help.
Also making decisions with the belief that everyone has a fundamental right that should be respected and protected. So you have to be humane enough, because at the end of the day, sometimes it can come back to you. Today it's you. Today it's me, tomorrow it's you. I hope to keep that in mind.
And also for scaring us. Stop scaring us. Stop using these quotes against us.
And also making decisions which treat everyone fairly and consistent. But let's get back to this conversation again. In a situation of domestic violence, there is this notion that you do not intervene in lovers' fights for different reasons. Siobhan said that, you know, someone could come on and say, did I ask you, you know, to come and defend me?
Who told you? What if I'm enjoying it? Who told you I'm in pain? I'm like,
And then again, when it comes to our police here in Uganda, our 911 call is not effective at all. We have seen situations where police takes over an hour to reach the scene of crime. We have seen where firefighters take long to reach a scene of the crime. So if we are talking about assessing the situation, sometimes won't it be way too late? Won't it be something that we regret because we did not intervene, because we waited to assess the situation, because we waited for the authority or people who are more capable to step into the situation?
This is the thing about handling a situation of crisis. The number one thing that you need to do is become calm and rationally assess that situation. When you see a burning house, the first thing that you need to do is become calm down, and rationally think the situation, because you may be running into a house that is going to explode. Do you understand what I mean? When you see a woman being attacked or assaulted, the first thing you need to do, be calm, assess the situation, and that is what they'll always tell you. You need to think rationally, because when you're not thinking rationally, and I know it's very difficult to even think that you have to think rationally in that moment, but you see, when you have a clear mind, you are in a better position to actually think clearly, and you have the higher chances of getting out of the situation alive, you and the person that you're trying to save. So when you run into any situation, whether your neighbor is being beaten, or whether the house is on fire, or whether somebody in that moment of somebody is getting kidnapped, you have to, in that split second, collect yourself together. That is it. Because if you don't, again, like I have been repeating, you're going to put yourself in a situation. But then again, let us also understand, and let us also make ourselves be very difficult targets. Do you understand what I mean? When it is raining and the place is flooded, you're a lot safer to stay put until it stops raining. Do you understand what I mean?
Yeah.
It
Sometimes
doesn't
it's
matter if
inevitable to just move. Depending on what if it's an emergency? Do you actually
I
stay
understand.
put? In that moment, you're just impulsive,
But
and
also
you
you
are
can't
actually
resist
if
the
you're
one
it's
impulsive,
like a reflex
you guys,
action.
but if you are impulsive in the situation, you're going to end up losing your life or harming yourself. If the road is flooded, you do not know if it is deep, if it is shallow, if there is a manhole in that place. You are a lot safer staying put if you are flooding here. Do you understand what I mean? Sometimes some situations is when you hear there is an earthquake or there's an earthquake going to fall down. Sometimes they say the first thing that you need to do is get under shelter. That is, go under a table. So that if any debris or the building is collapsing and you don't have enough time to go through the exit, you can go under a table and everything will fall on top of the table. And hopefully if you have your phone, you call out for help. There's protocols that you should follow in every situation. Another thing I found out, if you found yourself as a lady going to be harassed or assaulted, or you're going to be raped, do not scream rape, scream fire, because people are a lot more prone to reacting a lot quicker if you scream fire than if you scream rape.
Do you know
Did
why?
you know that?
Do you know why? Because we feed off each other's pain. Simple.
We love to see other
Everyone
people
is like, you know what, let me mind my business. If I'm being raped, my friend, enjoy. That is the rate at which we
Also,
have
if
reached.
you see a crime taking place, it is good to gather evidence. If you have your smartphone, use it, and then also go on, proceed to call the police. And then you can also help out by mobilizing people if you can. But sometimes, if you are not in a position, like for you, Aggie, you find a boy being beaten up by 12, 15 people, are you going to intervene?
No, definitely in that situation you are helpless. So that's why that's where the assessing the situation comes. But let me ask you, Sarah, or I don't know. Yes, you are a mother. You have said we shouldn't be impulsive in a situation. Okay, let's say you left the house and went to purchase a few things, maybe groceries, and you left your child in the house. And what happens is you come and you find, maybe due to a mistake that was inevitable or that you did, the house is now on fire and your child is inside. Do you actually stand to assess the situation, or as a mother, you know, the motherly instincts, you are impulsive enough to just run into the house to help your child? In that moment, you do not care whether you get burnt, you do not care what comes after that. All you are caring about is to help your child. Another situation. Let's say you live close to your sister who is married to a man who is very violent, and you hear your sister screaming, they are beating her up. Do you sit back to, you know, just listen, or to just assess the situation to see how to go about it, or because you just run, it's like a reflex action, you move?
You mistake me when I say assess. I don't mean take 2-3 business days to assess.
It's right. Those few minutes that you take to assess the situation, it could be worse.
I'm not meaning you take 2-3 business days to assess the situation. By the time I say assess the situation, you have a split second to make a decision that could possibly change the outcome of it, what that situation can be. Like I said, get calm. It's very important. Take a deep breath, look around, assess. Am I in a position to get something to demobilize this person who is beating my sister? Okay, and that's why in that moment when you're making that decision, it's also important to, one, demobilize them but not kill them, because now we have a whole different situation at hand. And it doesn't matter if he was beating her or not. So that is what I mean. Take a deep breath, look around. And even when they say you run into a house that has a fire, the first thing you need to assess, especially if in your house that has a fire, look for the nearest exit point. How can I get out of this situation alive? How can I go in and how can I come out alive? Do you understand what I mean? We can't always play the hero sometimes, but when you do play the hero, you have a split second, and I kid you not, you have a split second to make a decision that could possibly change the outcome. So you still need to apply caution in it. I know we like to act irrational. It's like, oh my goodness, look at me. I'm Wonder Woman in this moment. I'm flying into, burning buildings and saving the day.
I think it's actually better to be Wonder Woman than to be the bystander that's taking a video.
Can I say something?
You are also Wonder Woman, and you're right, because now you have evidence of the perpetrator. Yes?
Can I say something? And this will probably be, we could go on and on with this conversation, but Sarah, again, and also to the people that are watching us, can we learn for a moment to get out of our comfort zones? Yes, it's very important to assess the situation.
Comfort zones are getting too
It's very important to assess the situations and all, but get out of your comfort zone. You could be the person that is going to save someone else's life. If only you made one step towards helping them, you could be their savior. But also, again, going back to social individual responsibility, which you called it, can we learn to be human beings? Now, when I say human beings, there are human beings, but there are those that are really not human beings. Can we learn to be humane? Can we learn to be empathetic? Can we learn to walk a day in someone else's shoes? Someone is going through something painful, and you're seated and you're watching. You're taking... Can we move away from the... Nowadays, it's not about the numbers. It's not about the crowd. It's not about you being the first person to break the news. You could actually save a life. Otherwise, you might actually be the reason as to why someone loses a mother, a sister, a husband, a father. Yet, you could have done something about it. The question is, would you live with yourself for the rest of your life?
Knowing that you could have helped, but you didn't.
Ladies, we are probably high on whatever it is we're drinking in this cups. Coffee, is it? But see, this is the thing. As individual social responsibility, I would like for everybody to, number one, learn the basics of first aid. Number two, learn what to do in a case of crisis, when it is a flood, when there's a fire, when there's an earthquake, a mudslide, if you're witnessing a robbery or somebody being assaulted or, being violated, what to do in those situations. And also number three, and also another very important thing is you need to also know your limits within the law. Because believe it or not, it is very important.
Yeah,
you need to know your limits within the law. Because this is the thing. If I witnessed you being beaten, domestic violence, you had a brawl with your person, and I went and reported, it's not going to stick. It has to be you who has been harmed to make the report. And that is how it is only going to stick. So it becomes very tricky. It's also important, know your limits within the law. But it's important. First aid is a must for everybody to know. Number two, what to do in cases of crisis, earthquake, mudslide, fire, you're witnessing a crime, a car accident. You need to know that. Another very important thing is please have the help-free and toll-free lines of all medical services. An ambulance, the police, the fire department, also know where these places are. Do you understand? Sometimes it could be a lot easier for you to run to the police station as opposed to calling the police station. Yeah. You understand what I mean? Yeah. So get to know these places, because we all want to be the hero in somebody's life. But in the event that you are unable to, for whatever reasons, that you are not able to help in that situation, how can you help after the fact?
Okay, well, we asked this question on our social media, and Santum says that from numerous incidents, the Good Samaritan always ends up being hurt. Intervene at your own risk. Probably the best one could do is call the authorities. This one seems to share the same sentiments as Sarah. And Kenneth Agaba says it depends on the situation, circumstances really, because if the assailants are several, then the wisest thing to do is to stay safe and as far away as possible. Even the police who are armed usually inquire as to the number before showing up or not showing up entirely. Okay. Essential Worker says, you may act as a good Samaritan and end up being hurt for nothing. Though this can't take away the fact that humans are meant to help each other, especially those in danger, and rescue them. Well, that is what we had on our social media. But still, I'm hell-bent on the fact that it doesn't matter whether you're just an individual, whether there's not so many people around you that could help you, other bystanders. I feel like we are human and we should be human.
Yeah.
And it's our social individual responsibility that we should always step in whenever something is going wrong, whenever someone is being hurt. Well, for me, honestly, that's what I would do. I wouldn't care if I'm going to get hurt in the situation or in the end.
I'm going to try and jump tomorrow. We're going to get ourselves
I'm
in
very
trouble.
impulsive when it comes to that. Well, maybe I'm more human than anyone else.
What?
I could say that.
Listen, let's not get fooled by the movies. Okay, these are scripts, these are acted, they do 20, 100 takes to just get the scene right. You understand? But in real life, it can, number one, be a very scary moment to have to witness something like that happening. And there's a thing where people, the bystander effect, where some people are paralyzed by the events that are happening right in front of them. You've seen someone watch somebody collapse or faint, and then they're like, what is happening?
And you're panicking,
What,
you do not know
what
what to
do
do
I
in the
do? You
moment.
don't know
You're
what
not
to
sure.
do in the moment. So I know it is a beautiful, we would all want to be helped in that situation, in a situation of need, especially when we feel like we're in harm's way. We'd all want to be helped in that situation. But also a very important thing is make yourself a hard target. Like moving at night using, say, borders, for instance. Make sure that you are security cautious. Make sure you are moving along, the main roads that are properly lit. If you are going to, and you're going to your home and it is like on a deserted path, make sure that somebody at home is waiting for you and is expecting you. You understand? Do not walk by yourself. Be cautious about the cars that you get into, the people who you talk to. Be security cautious. It is very important. That is what actually, it's also part of, individual social security. You have to make yourself a hard target. So take care of yourself, be cautious, look around me. Every time I walk into a building, the first thing I'm looking for is exit points. In case something goes down
you're always
right
ready
now.
for whatever could
I'm
go wrong.
always, I am ready to go. If a fire started right now, which is the fastest point, I'm laughing, but I'm very serious, by the way. If a fire happened, which is the fastest route out of here? Okay. If I went to visit a man and he started making advances on me, you pay attention. Has he locked the door with the key? Is the door not locked? Are there bars? How do I get out of this situation? You never know. You never know. Be security cautious. Be cautious. Always look at a way out of a situation. It is always important. Always imagine the worst case scenario. Maybe I'm just a very paranoid person.
Very paranoid.
Well, you heard it from the ladies and I, and that is what we had for you on our views today. But the bottom line is, if you are in position to help, please do help. And if you are not in a position to help, like Sarah said, seek help, or actually take the video if you can, because at the end of the day, it's actually important as well. Well, that is what we had for you on our views today. Keep watching Sunrise at Sea.